The brain, a complex mystery organ that influences everything a person does, thinks, or feels. Life after a brain injury can feel just as mysterious and complex, trying to navigate services, experiencing potential isolation, different functioning, and much more. The rehabilitation process can impact the person as well as their supporters. It's often filled with ups, downs, and everything in between, all while the brain is relearning and making new connections within. Join us as the Brain Injury Association of North Carolina sits down with brain injury advocates to discuss a variety of topics surrounding life after brain injury. The more we understand the different aspects of services and effects of brain injury, the better we can help make connections within our community for individuals living with a brain injury. This is Making Connections. Today, we're going to talk about support groups and brain injury.
Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today I have Barbara, a prominent support group leader in the North Carolina and the Charlotte area. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to her. Barbara, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and yeah, just let us get to know you.
Sure. My name is Barbara Westphal. My husband was in an automobile accident about 25 years ago, so that makes me the caregiver. Fortunately, it was a very moderate situation, but it changed our lives forever, as you can well understand. I'm approaching this today from the side of the caregiver and the survivor. I'm very active in the Charlotte area. I'm part of the Charlotte Area Brain Injury Alliance. It's a big group that meets at Atrium Hospital. Not only am I the treasurer, but I've been planning activities for the last, 23, 24 years. We go to baseball games, we play miniature golf, we have a big picnic, we go bowling, activities that people really very much enjoy. I'm also part of the Lake Norman Brain Injury Support Group. I'm there to, my husband and I go to that together. I'm there to support him. Here we go. I'm also the coordinator of a couples group that meets every other month, and we have dinner together in a lovely little Greek restaurant. Coincidentally, the men all have brain injuries and the wives are all caregivers. So we learned a long time ago that the men sit at one table because if we try to sit as couples, the women do all the talking. So the little Greek restaurant owner laughs at us and she says, "You're just like Greeks. The men sit at one table and the women sit at another table." And I'm also part of a newer support group in the Charlotte area. It's LOBIS, L-O-B-I-S. I won't go through what all the letters mean, but it is a caregivers group, which has been extremely helpful. I think it's about 2 years old right now. So that's kind of my life. I spend a lot of time with various support groups. So I have hopefully some thoughts and suggestions that will be helpful for this interview. Lauren?
Yep. Excellent. Yeah, we're definitely glad to have you as part of the interview series. So you mentioned talking about your husband having an injury, and that's what kind of got you involved in support groups. But can you elaborate a little bit more on why it's so important for you to be invested in support groups? Why do you do it? It definitely sounds like you have a lot of stake in the game in terms of there's a lot of different groups that you're a part of. What kind of drives that, or maybe what got you started in that? Kind of just elaborate a little bit more.
Way back when, I guess I went to a support group because I wanted to learn more about brain injury. We had, his was a situation where he literally was only in the hospital overnight. He was home, the next day, all the brain bleeding had stopped and whatnot. But his personality changed. He was miserable. He was suffering. He had headaches. Well, I thought that by going to a support group, I could learn more about brain injury, and I did. The first meeting I went to was rather awkward. I had no idea what to expect. Um, it was a room filled with people, but they were in wheelchairs. In this particular situation, they were in wheelchairs and walkers, and some of them had broken bodies, and some of them looked just like a regular person on the street. And initially I was uncomfortable. I didn't feel like I belonged there. It was a very nervous first experience. But my gosh, these people opened up their hearts to me. And just when I told my story and what, why I wanted to be there and what I wanted to learn, they opened up. They shared their stories. They shared their experiences. Um, it was amazing. And I've been with that group for like 25 years. Um, Going to a support group meeting, there's sort of a pattern where when you first get there, um, it's kind of like a meet and greet and say hello to everybody and catch up on where people are in their lives. Usually the meeting has announcements. Generally there's a speaker. Sometimes the facilitator will have a topic and it's just one big group discussion. Those are really, really fascinating. There's a lot of social connection, and there's always snacks. That's always an enticement for people to come to the meeting. Challenges, yes, there are challenges in a support group. Everybody, well, I shouldn't say that, that's a little too general. Most people open up their hearts and share what their concerns really are, the challenges they're facing, the experiences they've had, and they have the opportunity to hear other people's stories of their journey, and they look at themselves and go, yeah, I felt that way, and this person that just shared the story survived, well, then I can survive too. It's been well, our support group has gone through the challenge of people getting relicensed to drive a car, and it is so their enthusiasm, their hope that they gained from the support group. We've watched like 3 or 4 of them get their driver's licenses back, and man, that's the best thing on earth. That's freedom for them. Lauren, any other question?
Yeah, yeah, I would imagine that. I know that driving is such a big factor, especially when it comes to independence. And I know that's one of the first questions that a lot of people coming out of rehab when I'm in the hospital are kind of asking about, what's that? And there are certain, hospitals that do have even, practice kind of getting into the car, or a practice car for people to use. But the process is a lot longer when it comes to getting to drive for a lot of people, especially with like seizures and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
But having that support group network, that kind of community to be able to help people sounds like that's invaluable when it comes to reaching goals like that.
There are so many benefits to being part of a support group. It's a safe place. It's an environment where people can talk about their real feelings, the stuff that, if you tell your family and friends, they don't quite understand. It's like, oh yeah, my friend does that. It doesn't mean anything. It's different because of brain injury. The support groups will be able to give anybody a lot of practical tips and resources. Uh, I've learned all sorts of, from the survivors, I've learned all sorts of different skills that they have been using, which I can try to work on with my husband, maybe not. My husband's one of those people you wouldn't know he has a brain injury. So it's an invisible injury. He doesn't have a wheelchair. He doesn't have a walker. People don't even think about any kind of disability he may have. from the support group, everyone's learning coping skills. In fact, they're joking right now. We are the support. The survivors are saying we're the experts. We know how to survive these things. People should be listening to us on how to take care of all of this insanity going on with all this COVID stuff. The support groups give us hope and provide role models for each other, even if you're brand new in the journey or you've been in the journey 25 years. Everybody learns something about who they are, where they are at a support group meeting. The cool thing is that support groups are affordable. They're free, and they usually have refreshments, so that's a great deal. And it's a great way to make new friends. Because I'm not a survivor, I'm not into what they do in between monthly meetings, but I've learned a bunch of them get together regularly. They do Facebook, they text each other, they get together and they did get together and go to movies or meet for lunch. It's a whole new circle of friends. And I got to tell you, when you have a brain injury, your friends start dropping off your social world because they don't know how to react to the new you. And so it's really very helpful to acquire new friends at the support group meetings. Lauren?
Yeah, I definitely see that. Again, the kind of like the forming of the community, having friends. It's so good to hear that they even have relationships outside of the group, because sometimes it can be, I mean, once a month is a long time to go sometimes without seeing somebody that you make a connection with or anything like that. I know that, and you had mentioned that there are, especially in the Charlotte area, where I see a lot of almost like targeted groups. One, so you mentioned one for like spouses, one for caregivers, one for, survivors and everyone. Do you notice either kind of a difference, or is there a specific benefit to having, targeted support groups? What does that kind of look like?
Absolutely, positively, yes. Targeted support groups are wonderful. For me as a caregiver, to sit in a meeting with other survivors and my husband at my side, I'm going to be hesitant as to what I say because I don't want to hurt his feelings. And kindness is a big thing, and patience is a big thing when you're dealing with brain injury. So a lot of times, if he's at the meeting, I'll not say much because I want the meeting to be for him. At a survivors meeting, sometimes we have caregivers, sometimes we don't, but it's an opportunity for them to share their stresses, their frustrations, their happiness, the good days, the bad days. There are challenges when there are children involved. When there's a marriage, there's challenges in the marriage. So when the caregivers group that I participate in gets together, or the couples group, the topics are somewhat different. In the couples group, we're talking about marital relationships, conversations. One member joked, she said, if I have to hear NCIS one more time on television, I'm going to scream. I mean, you can say this because you've got caregivers that this is the new world. And then I've got the actual caregivers group, and they're dealing with physical challenges, they're dealing with medical challenges, and it's the kind of conversation that you wouldn't care to have with the survivor present. Again, you don't want to hurt the survivor's feelings. So yeah, to me, it's critically important to have the various kinds of groups, but it's also important for the caregiver and the survivor to be able to attend a meeting together. One area that we don't really have covered is groups for children. And I can't really respond to that. I know there have been younger people with brain injuries. I know there have been teenagers, young college kind of kids, kind of groups, but they, in the Charlotte area, they seem to have, well, I hate to use the words fizzled, but they never quite gained the confidence and the success that we would have liked to have seen, or we thought that we wanted to see. So that's an area of consideration, and we'll just kind of see what happens with that. Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like you have a lot going on. So I'd be curious to see if anything, you start up a new support group for children anytime, in the Charlotte area. I'd love to see that. One place where I know that is not without, and you mentioned a little bit before, are recreation and social activities. We mentioned, we touched on the fact that individuals with brain injury are often isolated, whether it's due to the medical conditions after brain injury, or maybe it's, social, emotional behavior. There's a lot of things that a brain injury can impact. And a lot of times that comes with friendships, but then also being able to get out in the community and just have fun and do fun things. So what role do you see, recreation and social activity, which is so infused in all of your kind of support groups, or just in the Charlotte area in general after brain injury?
Those social activities are so incredibly important. In many instances, the survivors have lost or diminished their organizational abilities. They know they want to do something, but to actually get up and do it and coordinate it is a whole different experience. That's kind of the role that I've been doing for the last, I don't know, 25 years. I plan these various events. Just getting them to remember to pay their money to be there on time is huge. The opportunity to hang out with each other in a non-meeting environment is hugely important, and I know how much they look forward to it. They are thrilled every time we go, miniature golfing, bowling, baseball, whatever. They're so happy. They're out, they're in the world, they're able to participate in something like what I call a real person in a real world. And the smiles on their faces, it goes from ear to ear. They're just grinning, they're happy, they're joking, they're laughing. They're with other people that understand if they miss their mouth while they're eating because they're so excited. No one's going to criticize or chastise them. And I got to tell you, as the person that plans these things, it makes me feel so good to see them so happy. It's a great opportunity to give back to the community from my side of things. So yeah, as many activities as you can plan. I love it. We had an opportunity a bunch of years ago to go to the aquarium, and it was brand new in Charlotte. And that must have been about 4 or 5 years ago. And one of our members in the last 6 months said, "I want to go back to the aquarium." I went, "Okay, that's not my most favorite place, but okay, you want to go." So I contacted the people. The people at the aquarium could not have been more accommodating. They helped reduce the admission fees to like almost nothing. It was a good day for everybody. So there's opportunities, and it's fun when the groups suggest places they want to go. That helps me a lot too. Lauren?
Yeah, it's definitely, that's when I see the most engagement in the community, is when it comes from the people. They get to choose where they get to go, or the outings. And I think that's just a really great way to, like you said, kind of just get out there. Maybe they might not, have the initiative to be like, "Oh, okay, I want to go to the aquarium," because it might require, okay, I gotta get transportation there. I have to go get tickets. Then I've got to navigate the aquarium. So to like go by yourself versus in a group is a really, really different thing. And so providing that outlet, I definitely hope to see a lot of areas in, North Carolina, whether you're a day program, a support group, residential, or just any sort of a group out there, professionals, if you're interested get out there in the community. That's where the real work and real, happiness is going to take place.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. I wonder, so there's obviously a lot of change after a brain injury, whether it comes to your rehabilitation status and things like that. How can a person's place in rehabilitation, I mean, like, 1 year out of their injury versus 15 years out after that, how can that really impact how they engage in the community or support groups? Are you seeing any sort of, anecdotal trends or things that you can say about what that difference is or how it might be different?
I've got a couple of thoughts in that area. I don't really have an answer to that question. I think it mostly depends on the person. I know that from meeting people in the support groups, there's always an opportunity while on the journey to learn something. It seems from what I've seen that after the initial accident or incident, whichever, the first portion of your life after that, it might be 1 year, it might be 3 years, is making the body whole again, adjusting to this new person, to the new limitations you may have, the new challenges you may have. And I know in some instances, well, I know that I could name names, but I won't, of people that were caregivers and I don't need a support group. Now this isn't going to do, that's not going to happen to me. Well, it finally did. And this person did say, I'm really glad I participated in the support group as a caregiver. Now, I would imagine that the person for whom she was caring would have felt the same way. Sometimes it's just not early on. It's too soon. They have too many other things that they're adjusting to. We had one person coming to a support group that couldn't stay awake. She'd fall asleep halfway through. And over the years, we watched it progress. And then she would make it to the support group and she'd stay awake and she'd hang around later talking to everybody. It's, I can tell you this, even after attending 25 years of support group meetings, for me personally, I still get something out of every meeting. It's kind of like, oh, that's interesting that you say that. I wonder if that's the way my husband feels. And I listen to the survivors themselves doing exactly the same thing. Yeah, that happened to me too, and I tried this or I thought this. So I would say that the journey of the support group is beneficial at any time. And I guess with everything else in life, some people are joiners and some people are not. I can tell you the people in the Charlotte group, the ones that are the joiners that come on a regular basis, have a tight bond of friends that has really helped and encouraged them all the way through. For me, it's kind of sad to see someone come in and have a really good, 2 or 3 meetings, and then for whatever reason they disappear. And sometimes they reappear, and that's always what we hope for. But at any time during the journey of brain injury, we encourage folks to join us. Lauren?
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, you definitely touched on the benefits of support groups, why people should, get connected with support groups and kind of what you would say if anyone's, hesitant about reaching out or getting help. So that's definitely a good call out to any individuals, family members, caregivers, individuals living with brain injury, et cetera, reaching out to those support groups. I wonder, what would you say to, we might have a professionals watching this. What would you say to professionals about support groups, or, maybe they don't have any in their area, or, maybe they're interested in starting one. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. I think, well, I know in my particular case, when Bill had his accident 25 years ago, there was a very small opportunity for help in Charlotte, and I'm very glad I followed through on it. I got zero help from the doctor. I got zero help from the nurse, zero help from the hospital at that time. Maybe because he was only there overnight. I don't know. But I know that because so much has happened in the last 25 years, so much positiveness has happened in the last 25 years, that the doctors and the nurses and the hospitals are more knowledgeable. I know in our particular case in Charlotte, there are brain injury brochures in the hospital lobbies for people to take a look at. I would say contacting the Beyond website would probably be a really good starting point, and I think a lot of people have found the various support groups that I participate in online. I've not done Facebook groups, but I know there are brain injury Facebook groups that are closed, so you can't have any, peeping Toms trying to pass value judgment. But they're out there, and it just takes asking some questions to find out. And yes, we definitely want to encourage support groups.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I think you touched on most of my questions or anything like that. Is there anything else that you would like to leave us with? Any comments or thoughts?
Yeah, I have a story to share. I have a friend who's 70, I don't know what, recently diagnosed with Parkinson's. And of course, hey, you need to participate in a support group so you could learn more about this. Well, no, I'm not the kind. No. So 6 months later, I said, okay, the meeting's at 2 o'clock. I'm picking you up at 1:30. We will go together. It was a very silent drive. We got to the meeting, and it was a Parkinson's support group, and typical of a brain injury support group meeting. It was the same pattern, people sharing ideas, people sharing thoughts, challenges. Okay, took him home. He went, well, it wasn't as bad as I thought. I said, I'll see you next month. I'll pick you up at 1:30. Well, by meeting number 3, he was participating and really enjoying the group. Fast forward like 2 or 3 weeks before we went into social distancing and lockdown, he was saying, I really miss that support group. So I guess the lesson I learned is go for that hesitant person, go with them and make yourself go 3, 4, 5 times. I will continue supporting him at the Parkinson's meeting just because I know it's helpful. It's an encouragement for him. So I would offer that to anybody that is got someone that is hesitant about attending a support group meeting. Lauren?
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time that you've spent not only today to do this interview, but throughout the entire Charlotte area, the efforts that you've made and progress that you've made, and I'm sure the lives that you've changed as well as being part of the support group and offering those opportunities. So I really appreciate what you do for the brain injury community.
Thank you. Thank you.
This conference will now be recorded.
Uh-oh.
There we go. It's off now.
Did that record?
It did.
Did it record? Okay.
Yeah.
I saw the red button. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Did you think it went well?
Yeah, I do. I think I got most of the points in that I wanted to get in.
Okay, good. Yeah, because there were some questions that you kind of answered in other questions, so that's why I kind of jumped over them. But I'm glad that you did the last comment.
About the Parkinson's thing?
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I did that. My friend Peter, it's been an interesting experience, and I know stories of people that came to the Charlotte group and were so shy and afraid they literally sat their chair outside of the door and listened outside of the door. So I hope that little Parkinson's experience would be, a thought-provoking thing for someone else to try.
Because I think it's so true. I mean, it's so intimidating. You have no idea what to expect. It's the unknown. A lot of people are wrestling with, this isn't me. Like, yeah, I have a brain injury, but like, that's not me. And, I think it can get difficult for people to go in and be like, you don't have to like, be exactly like other people. It's just an avenue for conversation and connection. And that's what we all need. I think that's what a lot of people are seeing now with isolation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people, well, a lot of the folks that I've spoken to initially about joining a support group, they think it's a, pardon my French, a bitch session, that people moan and groan and complain about their doctors, tra-la, 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 tra-la. And when I took Peter to the first Parkinson's meeting, he said, all they're doing is complaining about their doctors. And he raised his hand and said, I like my doctor. He was diagnosed in December. But he's learned that it really wasn't complaining. It was just sharing what happens in a non-critical environment.
Yeah.
And that's part of the development of the camaraderie in any kind of support group.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am thankful. I say it on the video, but I always like to say it afterwards that I am genuinely thankful that you were able to come and do the interview today. So I really appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. We are finished?
Yeah, but I think we're good to go. And well, I'll let you know, when we're able to use it and any feedback we get on it, but I'm sure it's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to see myself on the video, but I really do. So
I know, right? That's me too. Anytime like I hear my voice, I'm like, oh, like but oh well, I can't change it. Yeah.
Cool.
All righty.
Thank
Well,
you.
you have
Thanks
a
for the
wonderful day.
invitation. You too. Take care.